when I say healing practices, what's important to know and understand is a practice. You got to practice, okay? This is something that you have to implement not only one time, but this is something that you have to constantly implement for it to actually have the benefit. And I think that's where a lot of people fail. So I'm trying to make sure you understand how important that is. So we're going to talk about 8 healing practices that you can incorporate into your lifestyle to not only heal your body, but to keep your body from getting diseased, okay? Hugely important, all right? So without any further ado, number one is heal your microbiome. What is your microbiome? That is that good bacteria in your gut, the probiotics in your gut that make up the inner lining of your gut, especially in the small intestine. Now, the reason why I'm specifically saying that microbiome, which is like a garden, okay? So as you look out here on the farm, there's all kind of trees here. We got soursop right there. We got a banana tree right there. We got sugar apple over there. We got custard apple over there. We got milkberry. We got, black sapote. We got sapodilla. We got star fruit, star apple. We got all types of different trees and plants and herbs here on the farm. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because your microbiome is exactly like that. All of these fruits, all of these herbs on this farm have a different function in terms of how it can heal you, how it can maintain your health. And inside of your gut, you have a microbiome, and each of those different types of good bacteria, Akkermansia, I can go down the list. Each of these different bacteria has a different function. Some of them help you to break down the food. Some of them help you to better absorb the food. Some of them are good for your metabolism. Some of them are good for burning fat. A lot of them are good for building the immune system, okay? But collectively, they do all of these different things. The same way, all of these things on the farm, which are not only nutritious, but also very medicinal for us, that is what your microbiome is, okay? And the reason why I'm saying you need to heal the microbiome, because we live in a world today where virtually all the food is toxic. Everything we're putting on our skin is toxic. The air is toxic. The water we're bathing in, we're drinking in, a lot of times is toxic as well too. The radiation that's coming from the cell phone, coming from our computers, coming from our wireless routers, that's coming from the television, that's coming from our laptops, that EMF is affecting our health as well too, okay? Which means that it's also affecting our microbiome, okay? Because everything that comes into the body, it feeds the body, okay? It's going to affect our microbiome. And we have different types of microbiome. We got microbiome on the skin. We got another microbiome inside of the nose. We got a microbiome inside of the mouth. A woman has a microbiome in her womb, okay? And all of these get affected by what we eat, what we put on our skin, what we put in our mouth, etc. But here's the really important notice that you need to have. Your microbiome, once it's damaged, it can be rejuvenated if it hasn't gone past a certain point. Okay, as a matter of fact, specifically talking about the gut microbiome, we can rejuvenate that microbiome in every 2 weeks. And if you implement something that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, you can rejuvenate your entire microbiome. Those probiotics that are in your gut, that garden that I just talked about inside of your body, on your skin, in your nasal cavity, in your mouth, okay, in your womb, okay? If you do this thing that I talk about a little bit later, you can regenerate it in 3 to 5 days. You can have an entirely new microbiome, okay? And of course, that comes with what you eat as well too, because you got to feed the probiotics, as I've talked about before, prebiotics. But it's important to know, if you want a new garden that has all kind of weeds in it, you got to weed out, you got to get rid of the weeds that are essentially eating away at the garden, that has stripped away the soil and made the soil so dense and compact that it can't properly nourish the plants that are actually in it, okay? So it's hugely important to understand healing practice number 1, you gotta heal the microbiome. You gotta heal this gut first. Hugely important, all right? Number 2, deep sleep. I always tell people, don't sleep on sleep. A lot of people sleep on sleep. And what I mean by that is, people don't know how important their sleep is. Okay, so whenever you're having sleep issues, it's not only an issue in terms of you're not getting your rest, it's an issue in terms of your health, okay? And the reason why I'm saying that is because our sleep is just, it's like a car, okay? A car needs rest. Let's say if you had an electric car, well, you gotta rest the car, and when you rest it, you gotta plug it in, all right? When we sleep, we plug into our natural healing mechanisms. And if we don't get a certain kind of sleep, and what I mean by a certain kind of sleep, all sleep isn't created equal. What I mean by that is you got REM sleep, which most people think that REM sleep is the best type of sleep, but REM sleep is the type of sleep when you're actually dreaming. That isn't truly restful sleep, okay? Deep sleep is what we're looking for, non-REM, okay? Deep sleep is when our bodies are fully rested, and when our bodies are fully rested, almost in a catatonic, paralyzed state, that is when the body heals and repairs and regenerates. Okay, so if you start to see that you're having sleep issues or signs of unhealthy sleep, where you're waking up in the middle of the night, okay, where you're snoring throughout the night, so maybe your partner tells you about that, okay, where you're having these long extended dreams throughout the night, okay, because you're supposed to go into REM. That's typically when you're in REM, that's when you're coming out of sleep. But if you spend your whole night in REM, it means that you've been dreaming throughout the night. You haven't been in restful sleep, okay? So if you start to notice that you're starting to have these signs that you're having issues with your sleep, you need to correct your sleep. You need to tap into this healing practice in terms of how do you correct your sleep? Getting rid of the blue light, making sure the temperature in the room is correct, okay? Also making sure you don't have any devices in the room. Like, I don't have a TV in my room. I definitely don't put the wireless router in my room, okay? Before I go to sleep, I'm not watching any type of, action movies and thrillers and things like that, so it makes it difficult to go to sleep, okay? So tap into the deep sleep. That is hugely important, because when we go into deep sleep, it increases growth hormone. Growth hormone is instrumental in creating healthy muscle, growing muscle, and strong bones, okay? So hugely important. Make sure you get your deep sleep. That kind of sleep, when you wake up, you're like, oh yeah, let's get the day started, okay? So you got to get your deep sleep. And not only that, it helps with strong bones and making sure you got energy. And it's also anti-inflammatory, but it's also good for your memory when you sleep properly. So if you're struggling with your memory, it could be because you're not getting restful sleep. If you're struggling with your immunity in terms of always feeling like you got an infection, it could be because you're not getting restful sleep. If you're struggling even with your weight, okay? All right, you have weight problem struggles, a lot of times it is your sleep, because it increases cortisol, and guess what cortisol does? It causes the body to store fat whenever you don't get restful sleep. So number 2 is deep sleep, okay? Number 3, thermotherapy. What I mean by that is cold and heat therapy, okay? Both of them are highly beneficial, and these are things that, again, the 1% of the world are very aware about. They're very aware about cold showers and cold plunges. They're very aware about the sauna and sunbathing and infrared sauna. They're very aware of this. There's so many people that today, they not only have a sauna in the house, they also have a cold plunge, the tub in the house as well too. So they're using both therapies. And why is it so important? All right, why is it so beneficial for these type of therapies? It increases recovery, okay? It's also anti-aging. It's also detoxifying to the body, especially when you're in a sauna and you feel all that sweat coming out, you're releasing toxins from the body. I've said in other previous videos, when you sweat, you're removing heavy metals from the body. Not alone the mucus and the acidity from the body as well too. So it's hugely important we start to incorporate this into our daily routine, if not weekly routine, okay? Even with the cold plunge. And I know people hate cold showers, but again, it does many of the same benefits as the sauna, but it also really helps with things like, recovery. It also decreases inflammation in the body as well too. And it's also really good for depression, and also our immune system. And it's also good for memory as well too, and increasing brown fat in the body. Brown fat is this type of fat that is actually the good fat in our body that actually increases our metabolism to burn the fat that we don't need. Okay, so cold therapy is good for that. All right, so get your thermotherapy on. All right.